Hello, America. I'm Robert Reese, and welcome to CEO Show. We're here today with Stephen Rich. How are you, Stephen?
I'm doing very well, Robert. How are you today?
I'm doing very well and glad to be with you. Stephen is the chairman, CEO, and president of Mutual of America. So let's start off. Mutual of America was founded in 1945 and had a very specific mission 80 years ago that you're really tied to. Talk about what the organization is.
Sure. Yeah, we were founded 80 years ago, and we were actually founded as a partnership between non-for-profit organizations and what was a predecessor to the United Way. And it was formed as a way for people who worked in the non-for-profit sector to be able to have a retirement savings account because at that time they did not qualify for Social Security. And so it's really founded out of a need for people who work in the non-for-profit segment. And we still honor that commitment today. Over 80% of our clients continue to be in the non-for-profit segment of the market. And we're really happy to partner with these types of organizations because oftentimes they're mission driven, and we are also mission driven as well. And so there's a commonality between the two of us.
And it's a really significant mission, and that's building the fabric of society. Speaking about building the fabric of society, as CEO of Mutual of America, I know, we've spoken that you knew Frances Hesselbein. And Frances Hesselbein, I have to tell you, she was the only CEO that I interviewed when she was 105 years old. Absolutely amazing. And she founded really the Peter Drucker Institute on leadership. And then she was very involved. What did you learn from Frances?
Well, Frances was a member of the Mutual America family for over 40 years. She served on our board of directors for many of those years that she was part of the family. But the amazing thing about Frances was she always maintained an office here in our building. And if you go down to see her, she always had something clever and interesting to tell you about leadership. To serve is to live was one of her favorites. And, through her work with Mutual America, also helping us to spread the word about Mutual of America's commitment to non-for-profits, she immensely helped our organization. And there's also a partnership award that we give out every year. And one of the awards that's given is the Frances Hesselbaum Award. And this is where we're rewarding non-for-profit organizations that are providing services to the community. It's a national contest we hold every year. And, so her legacy definitely lives on within Mutual of America.
And it sounds like you personally must have a lot of pride that now you get to be CEO of this great organization.
I am extremely proud to be a part of this organization. Just a little bit on my background, I've worked at Mutual of America for 21 years. I spent the first 20 years or so in our investment area within the company. And within the last year and a half, I was elevated to chairman, CEO, and president. So I'm very proud. I've been with the company for many years and wouldn't want to work for another organization.
Well, it's a great mission-led enterprise. And you have an important practice that I really like. Obviously, my whole world is CEOs, but you actually talk a lot about having CEO to CEO conversations. Walk through the whole process of exactly what you do, why you do, what happens in those discussions.
Right. So, I feel it's very important as a CEO to get out and see my clients. I think it's very important for me to spend time with my clients and see actually the work that they're doing in the community. As I mentioned earlier, they're mission driven, we're mission driven, and I feel that you get the most out of a partnership if you really understand what business or what they're involved in, what social services that they're actually providing. The other differentiating thing here is we're working in the small and micro markets. And oftentimes it's the CEO who's the decision maker about whether or not to have a plan and what providers they're going to work with. When you get into larger plans, CEOs probably aren't involved at that level. We also go in and do a lot of white glove sort of um, services that we provide to these non-for-profits. As you can imagine, non-for-profits are pretty lean. They don't have big HR staffs. Oftentimes, they might not even have HR staffs. And so we can come in, we help them administer their plan. In some cases, we actually set up new plans, but the decision making oftentimes really is coming from the CEO. And CEOs of any organization want to speak to other CEOs. And so I respect that. I honor that. Last year alone, I saw over 150 clients.
You
And that
saw 150, that's almost one a day.
almost, yes. Now, thankfully, there's ways to communicate virtually as well as in person, but it was a very heavy lift. I continue to, want to stretch that goal this year. So it's very important to get out and see my clients directly, understand what their pain points are, and also understand what their mission is.
So when you've had the opportunity to have 150 CEO conversations a year,
Yeah.
what have you learned about leadership that has impacted your own leadership philosophy in running a significant enterprise?
Well, I think if you talk to most of these CEOs, it's really about trust, transparency, and communication. I think are kind of the keys to being a CEO across virtually any organization. And so, that's really where I feel that there's a lot of traction when you speak to these CEOs. I'd say one other thing along those lines would be that these CEOs are very concerned about their own people. And that's one of the reasons that they want to offer retirement savings opportunities for their employees because they understand that if people start saving early and often, that they're going to have better outcomes at the end of the day from a retirement perspective. And I think CEOs that work in these non-for-profits really, really want to focus a lot of their attention on the well-being of their own employees.
And it's so interesting because the people you're working with, they're non-for-profit, they're giving towards the world, and yet they're not always focused on business first. So in a sense, you're doing that important effort for them.
That's right. And that's why I find it extremely rewarding what we do. Because, look, if you go into a non-for-profit world, you probably haven't spent a lot of time doing investment banking work prior to that. And so there's a real need for an organization like ourselves to come provide education as to how to invest, why you want to invest. And even if you're putting a very small amount away, it starts to grow over time and it becomes very encouraging. And so a lot of what we're doing is we're providing that education. And like you said, people in the non-for-profit world, they're not thinking so much about their retirement and their finances. They're more worried about how are they helping people. And so that's what I find so amazing about what we've done. And even when I was working in the investment arm of the organization, I always felt very proud that I was making returns for people who really need these returns. And that was something that was very gratifying.
Yeah, and it reminds me of um, Albert Einstein said the greatest phenomenon of the 20th century is compound interest. And you are certainly helping people with that. If someone is interested, what's the website they would go to for Mutual of America?
It's you go to mutualamerica.com and the website should pull up.
Well, we could have almost guessed that. We're going to
Yep,
come back in a few minutes. And when we come back, we're going to talk with Stephen about transformation and being thrown into the CEO position and what that is really like. Back in a few. Stay tuned. Hi, this is Robert Reese on the CEO Show, where we speak with the CEOs who have reinvented the fabric of America. We're here today with Stephen Rich, who is the Chairman, CEO, and President of Mutual of America. It's a unique organization in that their focus, their purpose is helping non-for-profits have retirements for all of their people. So the people with passion get to retire with passion. So let's talk about a transformative moment that you had.
sure. As I said earlier, I've been with this organization for over 21 years. I spent the first 20 years in our investment arm. And about a year and a half ago, the board of directors was looking for a change of leadership. And they asked me if I wanted to do that. And of course, I did. And not fully understanding how all encompassing that might be and all of the challenges that come with that. I took that on, and I'm very grateful that I did, and I've learned a lot in the process. Um, but I will go back to just one sort of story when I first received the job. At this time, I was walking to the office. I live in New York. It's about a 2 mile walk, and so I'd come, walking down Park Avenue where offices are here and sort of mentally getting ready for the day and looked in our lobby of our building here at 320 Park. And I was scared to go in the building. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what sort of the day was going to bring, what kind of challenges. But once I stepped through the lobby doors and I knew that there are other people here that were going to help me and support me, other leaders I have in the organization, I had a lot of confidence. And it reminds me of my days as a wrestler. And before you go out on the mat, you're nervous. You're very nervous. But sort of once you step into that arena, you become confident and you do what you need to do and you get the job done. And so that was just sort of emotionally sort of how I felt around that time of getting the opportunity. And, that's just goes back to sort of some of the things I think about my athletic endeavors in the past. But, from a transformative perspective, I felt that, I wanted to, one, lead by example. I think that's a very important thing and something that I very much buy into. I think it's also important to be a good listener and really to listen to people. And I spent a lot of time listening to my leadership team and what things they observed and what things can be done better and change. Um, I set out very simple sort of mission as to what we needed to accomplish in the first 12 months. And it was very simple. We needed to strengthen our balance sheet. We needed to get back to servicing our clients. And that goes to going out and speaking to all the clients that I did last year. And then number two, looking for new growth opportunities because every company needs to grow in some way. Simple three messages, communicated that to my employee base, and then simply ask them when you come into the office every day, what are you doing to help in one of those endeavors? If you're trying to, if you're looking at the balance sheet, are you saving money? Are you doing something to cost cut? Because that ultimately hits the balance sheet. From a client service perspective, are you taking one more phone call, picking up the phone one more time, calling one more client? And then finally, growth. How are we growing the business? What are we doing to bring more assets into the door? How are we developing new products? And just asking people and charging the employee base, what are you doing every day on those three metrics? So that was one of the first things that I stepped into and initiated.
What types of responses would you get from them? Would people ever come up to you and say, "Hey, Stephen, I just want to tell you I did this today, and that was part of the client initiative," or no, that was part of the balance sheet, or that was part of the growth? Would people ever stop you and have a conversation like that, or not really?
Um, they definitely would, and especially on things like expenses, because one of the things that I charge people with was, let's not do things exactly the way we've been doing them for the last 80 years. Let's re-underwrite decisions. Let's go look at all of our vendors and make sure we have, A, do we need that vendor? And B, are we getting the right terms in terms of, what we're paying for those services? So I think that was, in many cases, there was a lot of positive feedback from that. I was involved, and I'm still involved with client calls with our top representatives in the field on every Monday. I do an East Coast call and I do a West Coast call. So I'm getting real-time feedback as to what clients are saying and what they're feeling, what their pain points are, and then also how do we go about fixing issues that clients may have rather than sort of letting them just sort of exist out there. So taking proactive activity and management around those processes. And then as it retains the growth, we've got a new product committee that we meet, and we're developing new products, all the time, and looking for better ways that we can sell more things to existing clients and also widen our base of clients.
So I really commend you because what you've done is you've done simplification. And I think one of Einstein's other statements was always make things as simple as possible, just not simpler.
Yeah,
But you pinpointed the three areas, and then you get people every day to do something in that area. And do you yourself, I know you do it in the client area, but do you yourself every day focus on the growth and the balance sheet as well?
I do. I do. Those are the core activities that are involved on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, it's almost like you could say if you do that every day you go home and you're like, you know what? I did what I had to do, and you're bringing everyone in your organization to do what they had to do every day.
That's right. And what that does is it empowers employees.
Exactly.
Right.
That is,
Now, the other thing that we did is we've tied short-term compensation, which is a bonus that we to some of these metrics as well.
oh.
And so not only have we asked people to do that, but we've also made metrics around these three areas that we've motivated people to actually do that because a part or all of their compensation is based on those metrics.
And how has that worked out?
We did very well against our scorecard this year,
That's well,
better than
congratulations.
expected.
So here's the final question for you. Everyone wants to know the future of financial services. You're in a niche, albeit a significant niche, that impacts all of the people who are working in non-for-profit and getting their retirements all lined up, making there be a feeling of well-being for all of those CEOs. What do you see as the one driver, if you and I were to speak in 1 year, that might change a little in financial services?
Well, it's my understanding that there are more and more smaller businesses that are starting retirement plans. And so if you look at a lot of the larger players who are in the market, they've started to make initiatives to come what we call down market. And so we see this as an opportunity for ourselves because we're already there. We have first mover advantage, if you will. And I think also, as I've described, I think we have a pretty good template as to how to work with these smaller organizations, CEO to CEO contact. It's having our own representatives come out and help employees, educate them, and encourage them to put money away. So we've got a lot of that infrastructure already, and we understand how to work with these smaller and micro type accounts, whereas some of the larger players are now going to start to try to come down into that space. And I think that we're going to be able to continue to have leading market share here because of our client service efforts.
Well, that's great. And congratulations, Stephen. What a pleasure it is having you on the CEO show.
Well, thank you very much. And Robert, I'd love to come back and share more stories about Mutual of America and perhaps some other board members that we've had. It's been an illustrious group over the years.
So everyone listening in, think about three things that you learned from Stephen Rich. Number one, when you want to transform an organization, just focus on three things, but make those happen every day. Number two, model that yourself. Be the example so everyone sees what you're doing. And number three, and this could be one of the greatest, most significant practices for any CEO, talk with your CEO clients. If you could have 150 CEO meetings every single year, it shows you care, you're going to learn, and you'll also even advance your own leadership abilities. So, on that note, see you all next time.